So some key considerations for this sort of alignment of that change process, that sort of culture change to the skills program is wherever possible, do small workshops. Certainly for champions, you want them to be small. Power users, service desk, those types of teams. You know, you probably want no more than 16 people in a workshop for those guys. For the user ones, you can go bigger, obviously, because they tend to not need hands-on. They tend to be more being shown how to use things and then ask questions. The other thing is think about quick wins. So one of the things that resonates for users is if I'm going to use this technology that replaces my file shares, why is it better for me? How does it benefit the way we work and the team as a whole? So think about quick wins. And I put one example there, which is Teams integrating with Outlook. And I remember at one company where they put the Teams client on, and nobody knew that everything they did in Outlook, they could just actually switch it to a Teams meeting, and then it all just properly set up in Teams. The minute you showed them that, they were like, "Oh, I didn't know that," and that was a quick win. Right, that gets people on board a lot quicker when they see that. Another example, actually, of a quick win that I remember working with a company who'd migrated from SharePoint on-prem and file shares was we went into the user sessions, and one person straight away was angry. You could tell he was really angry. He was like, "Oh, I don't like Teams. I hate it. Rubbish. I don't know why we've done all this." Blah, blah. It was a real vent, and I just turned around and I said, "Okay, well, today's session, we're going to be looking, talking about Teams and SharePoint and stuff like that." And he said, "Yeah, but SharePoint's not there anymore. I used to use that. I used to love using SharePoint. I could do my filters and sorts and views. Now I've got Teams and I can't see any of that." And I said, so my first thing to him was, how do you work with data? And it became quite obvious that this particular person in his team was the document management person. And so all I had to show him was how to be in Teams and open it into SharePoint and go into SharePoint from one click. And as soon as he saw that, he went, "That's what I've been looking for. Nobody told me that was there." And it instantly changed his perception of how to use the product. Now, I don't know today if he still likes Teams or not. I've not seen him for a while, but it made a massive difference to the way you use the tools. Obviously, if you are going to do some internal sessions, make sure you record them so people can access them later. Just remember, though, that sessions recorded, if Microsoft has done some major updates to that way of working over 12 months, it will be out of date. So you need to get rid of them and delete them or replace them and overwrite them, because what you don't want is what we have in YouTube, which is where we've got thousands and thousands of videos on how to do something in 365, of which 85% of them are out of date. And if you actually told people to follow those, they'd actually be, well, they wouldn't even make sense half the time because the buttons wouldn't be there, or that wouldn't work, or it wouldn't do that. So you've got to be very careful when recording sessions that they are kept up to date. Also think about the difference that we call between measured and or structured and unstructured skills. So when we think about giving people access to learning material, could be videos, it could be step guides, it could be quick hints and tips guides, whatever. If you want to measure people's skills because you want to have the ability to know that people have gone through certain types of training so they can be given access to certain tools, that they're keeping up to date with the new changes in Microsoft Teams, structured learning needs to have a structured platform behind it that can give you that measurement. So you're thinking about learning management systems now that provide the ability to set up pathways, and you can measure people watching the videos start to finish, and saying that you must do 90% of this content, and then you might have a quiz at the end of it, you might have some supporting documentation, and then you might even issue a certificate at the end of that. This is what we call structured learning. And you need a platform to do that. It's not something that just comes built into 365. There are some tools in 365 and ways that you can inject content, but it's not structured learning management system content. So number one, if you want measurement, that's what you need to think about. You will need a learning management system or some kind of structured learning platform. But at the same time, not everything is structured learning. For users, they also need support and unstructured help at the point of where they are. So it might be a video injected somewhere, a hint and tips that might be in a team that they're working in. And that way, you're not measuring that they're watching that video or which hints and tips they looked at. It's as long as it's helping them do their job, it doesn't matter. And we don't need to measure that. So that difference between where you focus and measure is going to be key. And I've worked with companies where they say, oh, I want to measure that they've watched every video. Why? Are they doing their job? Are they able to get help when they need it? You don't need to measure that because you know the adoption is working because they're using the tools. But if I want to make sure that a new person being onboarded who's working in, say, the projects team, they need to know all of these things that the project team need to know to do their job, and I need to make sure that they've watched that. A bit similar, like I might need them to follow the GDPR videos and the HR and health and safety stuff. It's the same thing that you would put into a learning management pathway. So that success comes from that whole blended approach that we've just looked at. I mean, you know, sport is proof that it's a massive team thing, and everybody from the backroom staff all the way through to the players are involved in making it work. It's the same thing in a change management project, an adoption project for 365, because it is a fundamental shift in the way we work, and we should be approaching it as such. So when we think about different ways of approaching that, you know, we could be doing on-demand digital learning through learning management systems, through direct links into Teams, into SharePoint, injecting custom videos specifically designed for ways of working that map to that business, into different tools. You know, we have to think about not just blasing out the box stuff and that's it. We have to think of how we're going to blend that out the box content into the right people in the right place. So that might mean for some people that are living in teams that you need to build embedded content into the team's channels, and you could have different information, different help guides injected into Teams. You could have it in SharePoint communication sites, so you could build pathways in SharePoint, and you could build custom learning content that has both service desk feedback, hints and tips from the champions, and how-to guides into the same place. Now, Microsoft has recently released some really nice tools in SharePoint using search, where you can pre-build Q&A questions, for example, into the search environment. So a user could, for example, be in Teams or SharePoint and just type, how do I do this? Or what is a this? So you basically can preempt the question and actually point that then as a result in search at content that is stored in your 365. So once you've got that, you could then start building AI, which almost preempts what the user's trying to do, and then automatically you do a search that returns the nearest help that would help them do that. And you'll start to notice that Microsoft talks about content services, knowledge base, AI-driven help and support. That's all coming from these new search AI criteria that Microsoft is building behind the scenes. And so whenever we're thinking about building these sort of embedding capabilities, in the back of our mind, we're always thinking, oh, we could also put it into that sort of clever search capabilities as well. And if you've got learning management people in your business, so people who are learning and development officers, etc., they definitely need to be brought along in this journey and make sure that they are aware of the opportunities to inject content into LMS platforms. If you don't have an LMS platform or you want a learning LMS platform, let us know. We can provide them as part of this journey. They don't have to cost a lot of money. A lot of people think LMS platforms are very expensive. They do not have to be. Traditional LMS has always been seen as sort of an enterprise thing, but you would be surprised how reasonable you can now deploy these into your environment. And actually, a lot of the newer ones today that are cloud-based are all fully 365 embedded. So you basically sign into them with your 365 account. So it's very, from a user's perspective, it's very seamless. And that's another key benefit of this.